I'll screen share in just a second. All right, so we're live. And okay, can everybody see that? Okay. So I'll do our names later. Do we just want to start with going through everybody's examples first?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll go first if that worked. And I hope I did this correctly. So we're supposed to go in, find an article, right? And our topic was proximate cause in negligence case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I have the right one. Okay, so I found an article, and it was hard to find one that was like within a recent year for me. I swear I couldn't get that filter, so I was like finding all these old ones. But anyway, one I found was about an American football player jailed for murder had severe brain disease. So it's the Aaron Hernandez case. And it's his 4-year-old daughter is suing the National Football League and the New England Patriots. They claim that the brain disease that he had was caused by negligence of the team and the league, as well as being the proximate cause of his suicide. So
would that just be because of concussions, or?
I think concussions, and then caused the brain disease, and then drove him to suicide. So their negligence in not addressing the concussions caused the brain disease, that they claim is suicide. That's the one I came up with.
That's super interesting. And I think that sounds right. Negligence, that made sense, and proximate cause, it kind of all ripple effect.
Right, exactly. Okay. Do
you want to go, Michelle, next?
Now that you read your example, I realize I did mine for the wrong one. That's why I texted about thinking we were going this week. Yeah. So now that that's kind of being put together, mine's for assault. Mine's about assault, so not as close.
Just so we learn about it.
Okay, great. Exactly. So the article I found, I think it was something in regards to intentional assault. I can't remember what the topic specifically was, but basically the article was about a woman in New York. She had just finished her shift at a restaurant, and she just walked outside, and a man stabbed her. He just pushed her down and stabbed her and caused her to have 14 stitches. She had just barely moved there, and so she's like, New York.
Yikes.
Welcome to New York. Yeah.
So sorry about that. Doing the wrong one. Group 6. I'll remember it.
That's all right. Now we all know assault for the test.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know, Matt?
Yeah. So mine is a New York Times article. And it's talking about a mass die-off of whales in the Atlantic. There's been a high amount of whale deaths in the last year or so, and it's been like 3 or 4 times higher than it has been in past years, and there hasn't been boats that have there hasn't been an increase in boats, and 10 of the whales, normally they have about 2 whales that die from hitting boats, but they had 10 this last year, and so they're going in, and like marine biologists are looking at the whales to see kind of what caused their death, and so I think it was more talking about the negligence of the boats, and if they would have a proximate cause to sue boat companies because of the loss of the humpback whales.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can't imagine hitting a whale while in a boat.
Right.
It'd be terrifying.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's interesting.
I would be like, the boats lose the battle too, I guess. No one wins.
Right.
That's interesting.
Hmm. Okay, and mine was, let me pull it up. So it was from New York Times, and it was these two policemen. They'd been looking for this kid since like 2010, and they thought they had a lead on him. And so they just like entered into this house, this random house, without a warrant, without knocking or anything, entered the house, and there was a guy and his girlfriend and one other girl there. None of them were the suspect that the police were looking for. And the boyfriend, he had a BB gun, but the cops thought it was a rifle, and so they immediately fired. And they shot one of the girls, and that girl ended up like having to amputate her leg from the knee down. And so they're all in court about it right now, and trying to sue the policemen because they never got a warrant, never knocked, didn't make themselves known. And they're saying it's negligence from that first part. Yeah, they didn't do what they were supposed to. And then proximate cause and that's what they're trying to figure out, is if because they didn't get a warrant, did it cause everything else to happen? Like, would they have still shot someone? Would that girl have ended up losing her leg? So just trying to figure out if not getting a warrant because of negligence caused the results. So that's mine.
Yeah.
That
also sounds like it escalated very quickly.
Yeah, it did. Super fast. It was like, oh gosh. Interesting though, because the policemen didn't get in trouble for firing because they said that at the time they saw the gun, and by the time they pulled the trigger, it was the fact that they truly thought they were in danger. So that's not the issue. It's
just they entered the home.
Kind of interesting. Has any of those other two emailed us back? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so since they haven't joined yet, which example do we want to use? Which would yeah.
Yeah. And it's always somebody has to throw out the first one, and then we all ban on that one.
I like both Becky's and Jeannie's.
Yeah, I know. I was like, do not pick mine because of that. I was like, because you're saying yours, and I'm like, oh, I really like it, and so I'm like, no, we're always gonna pick yours. So I'm good with yeah. I feel like those two are at least a case. It sounded like yours was like still like they were determining, and I guess I don't understand if that's part of. Well, it just demonstrates. So I guess it doesn't have to actually be.
Yeah, I like the football one.
A formal case.
Yeah, I thought yours was really good too.
Yeah. Let's use that one then. Okay, so now.
Well, mine is from the London Times. Does that matter?
I don't think so.
I'm sure.
Because it said like the research and then the Wall Street Journal, and I'm like, well, does it happen? And I'm like, they're or. I can have or.
Yeah, no, I think you're all good. You want to email that over?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, you're in screen share. Okay.
And no, I'm not a huge football fan. That's not why I picked this one. It was literally one of the first ones I could find on.
That actually works.
Within a year. The year deadline was killing me.
Oh. Okay. So while we're waiting for that email, do we want to just think of a quiz question? And do we have to use the example in the quiz question? I kind of don't think so from reading everybody else's quizzes.
Yeah, I think mostly I just think if there's enough detail to, like, you can understand the question.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, a write-up, I don't agree. I don't necessarily think we have to put it in the question.
Okay.
Like you could say what would be ultimate progress or something like that. Obviously a better question.
But say that again.
Does it have to have any connection, basically, to our example?
Right.
I think it does from reading from the quiz questions, because some were just very cut and dry, like straight out of the book. I don't think we have to. I don't know. Does anybody else know?
Yeah, I guess we don't. I don't know. Type your
I don't know
explanation.
either.
Okay, so on the template it says include the entire question, including the part of your example that should be included in the question.
Okay, so what we did last time.
Yeah, I think
Like
so.
our explanation and then our question. Okay, so our question is, yeah, let's think of our question and see if we can come up with a good question on this example.
Yeah.
It could be something about the two parties. So they're suing the NFL and the team.
Yeah.
It could be
Weren't there like 3 parts to proximate cause in the book?
Did you say in the book?
Yeah.
There were more parts, but I don't think there are more parts to it, but I think that negligence.
Yeah, I think it kind of.
Just kind of had that one section on it from what I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, they talked about it in a few other spots, but the definition was just like a paragraph, and that's kind of what it was.
So then do we want to do a question on more focused towards negligence or proximate cause? Or somehow intertwine them?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm trying. Okay.
I feel like as a student, I like negligence. I can kind of figure out.
Right.
So I feel like a question on proximate cause would be more helpful.
Yeah.
Just because we don't hear it all the time. So like to learn that concept a little bit better.
You could do something like, in this case, negligence. What part would be proximate cause?
Oh, it kind of broke up there. I didn't hear all of that. What did?
So you could do like, in this case of negligence, what would consist of proximate cause?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we could, yeah, that's a good idea. We can maybe get a list of, was the proximate cause the concussions, or was it, you know?
Like, yeah. So then so we have to have 1 right and then 3 wrong.
Uh-huh.
And so, well, yeah. Okay, so so in this case was negligence of the team, of the two parties. Because I guess there's not a lot of information there, right? Like my write-up is very simple because there wasn't any real super details of what they were trying to go with either of those. Just, proving after the fact that he did have a brain disease. So, yeah, but so how would we, I guess the question, so what would be our right answer? I kind of can just go to like negative answers easier.
Yeah, so here we go.
So could we say, does the negligence and probable cause lie more with one party or the other? When the answer's technical, I mean,
I was gonna say, but then our answer is kind of a yes or no thing. I
true.
don't know, it's kind of tricky. One thing that's kind of like sticking out to me in the book is it says the defendant's legal responsibility does not extend to all consequences of his or her actions, just to the harms tied closely enough to the actions for which, as a matter of justice or social policy, the defendant should be liable.
So say that last part again, like the last sentence of that.
Okay.
The-
So I'll just read what I just read. So it says the defendant's legal responsibility does not extend to all consequences of his or her actions. Oh, sorry. Just to the harms tied closely enough to the actions for which, as a matter of justice or social policy, the defendant should be liable. So I don't know. Maybe we could say something along, or ask something along the lines of like, I don't know. It's coming in second.
I know.
It's tricky.
So let's think of the other case. Is the other case easier to come up with a question and defend from the other example?
Like, are we trying to understand what the proximate cause would be?
We could say,
So it's a
Is proximate cause a thing? I don't think it's a thing,
I
though.
don't think it's a thing. It's an act, right?
Yeah.
well, we don't even have to say that it is proximate cause. We could ask what factor of negligence could this story be applicable to? And then we could do like an intentional tort, like invasion of privacy or proximate cause, just like having a couple of different ones.
That actually might
Right.
be a little bit easier. And because how
Yeah.
you worded the question, I'm just going to show that again. It says, it kind of like tells you it, like,
Right.
was caused by the negligence of the team. We could maybe delete the part that says, as well as being the proximate cause. We could just say like negligence of the team, which led to the brain disease. And then have the question of, yeah, was it proximate cause? Was it a tort or invasion of privacy or all those things? That might be a little easy to come up with for a question.
Yeah, I like.
You like that thing? Also, hi, Brandy and Marvin.
Hi.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Sorry we got started without you guys. We're just
No,
talking about
it's okay.
questions. You guys want to read us your examples, though?
Okay.
Yeah. So mine was a case action against six ex-officers in the Chase National Bank. I totally didn't write my whole thing down before I submitted it, so I don't know what I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so these six loan officers purchased energy loans from a bank that they ignored obvious risks. And so Chase is charging them with violating their credit policies.
Gotcha.
And would their negligence be? I'm not sure.
Yeah, is there negligence just them not knowing the policy or just knowingly going against it?
Knowingly going, well, it doesn't say if they knew or not. They're like the executive vice president and 5 officers, so. me, it's knowingly, but it
Yeah.
doesn't say.
It would be hard that they wouldn't know.
Yeah. Cool. Marvin, do you want to share us yours?
I write about an article that talks about a lady implanted with a intrauterine device in 2005. She suffered 3 miscarriages between 2009 and 2011. And she asked to her if the device has something to do with a miscarriage. And she asked for an X-ray, and the doctor told her that the device was not present in the. So in 2013, she switched doctors. The device was removed. Successful pregnancy. The original clinic for personal injury and wrongful death of the unborn fetuses. And the case says she win and she got a lot of money for that, for negligence of the other clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks, you guys, for sharing that. We kind of already started on. We picked to use Becky's example. So I'll go
Okay.
with on.
And I sent it out, I think, to the group after I sent it straight to you. So you might have
I
it
have
in your
it.
email. Yeah.
You want to explain that a little bit to them just to catch them up?
Yeah, so I just used an example. It's a football player committed suicide. So his 4-year-old daughter. So they're suing they're saying on behalf of his daughter. They're suing the NFL and the team because they're claiming negligence by both of them. That he had concussions and different things caused this brain disease, and then that brain disease ultimately led to him committing suicide. So the negligence is just not being, addressing the concussions and different things, and then the proximate causes that it to him actually committing suicide.
Okay.
And so we're just trying to think of a question to go with that. And so we kind of thought that we would ask what kind of negligence it was, whether it be proximate cause or
Practice or
just a list, and then they'd have to choose the right one. Does that sound good for you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to find some examples that we could. So yeah, so I think so our right answer is going to be negligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then our wrong answer, like intentional torts.
Oh, I think our right answer will be proximate cause.
Oh, proximate cause. Yes. I'm sorry. Because we are stating negligence.
And then what are other kinds of negligence?
other kinds of negligence is malpractice, respondent failure, strict liability.
And strict liability. Yeah.
Respondent
Yeah.
Or less.
So, just trying to word the question here. So I guess this would be here. So question, so Aaron's daughter is the one suing?
Yeah. Well, they're suing on
They're
behalf.
suing on behalf of her.
Yeah. So it's probably like his estate or something.
Okay.
I mean, because she's 4, so she can't sue.
I know, yeah, I don't know that.
She wants to, I'm sure. She knows what's happening. But
Who's suing them?
and then I think, yeah, is our question what type of liability?
What type of negligence?
Because those things we named are, or they're different kinds of liability. Yeah, so negligence. So we could use negligence or liability when saying, is it,
Yeah.
you know, the strict life. Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing.
What form of negligence is this?
What form of negligence?
I think that made more sense if you said what form of liability is this?
Okay. Okay, so does that question look good for everybody? Corrections we need to put in there?
What? Yeah, or what form of liability would they use in the lawsuit?
Yeah, like what kind of liability is this an example of or something like that?
Right, because they would have to say proximate cause.
Right.
Would this be filed under, would considered? Yeah.
Okay, and so then correct answer feedback would be this is,
I can't see it.
not screen sharing.
Well, if I click on somebody else, I can see it in the little corner, but if I click on you, it goes away.
Not
Black.
doing it now.
Can anybody else see it?
I'm on the page.
Yeah, if I click on your name, it shows up.
Yeah.
Click on her name, it goes black.
Yeah.
I can't read it. I'm sorry. I feel kind of lost.
Let's see. I don't even know how. Like, sorry. Who can't see
That's
it?
okay. I think it's just mine if I'm the only one that can't see it.
No, I can see it.
Okay. Sorry, Brandy. I'll email it to everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so it's proximate cause because
Because it was he committed suicide because of the brain disease that he got.
And proximate cause, it said it involves foreseeability. And so had they done, the accurate testing they should have done, then this would have been a foreseeable thing.
there we go. Which is then why everything. What did you just say, Michelle? That was really good. Had the team.
So had they done any of the, proper medical procedures they should have following a concussion, this would have been a foreseeable outcome. Or at least it would have been labeled as a possible, side effect. But it was a foreseeable action that could have occurred.
Proximate cause, and he says happening which results in an event, particularly injury due to negligence or an intentional wrongful act.
Would have prevented a brain disease and which one?
Well, it may not have prevented the brain disease, but it would have prevented, at least they would have known about it.
I am on being late.
There you go. It would have.
So, let's see. I'm having a hard time. You're so small. Let me see what you're writing. So they followed the proper medical procedures dealing with concussions. It would have, maybe you said they would have been able to diagnose him sooner with side effects of, suicidal tendencies or thoughts.
Yeah, because I've read into concussions
Mm-hmm.
specifically, and the more concussions you get, like if you're not benched, it does cause this brain disease, which
Sure.
lose it. And so, yeah, I guess it would have allowed them to
Maybe properly attend or help him.
Yeah, before it got so severe.
Right.
To follow proper medical procedures during concussions, we would have.
Maybe say it would have potentially prevented the suicide because they would have known the risks he was at, or maybe just kind of what he was dealing with. Maybe because they would have known about the brain disease.
Yeah, so it all starts because of concussions.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
had they taken the proper procedures after the concussions, it could have potentially prevented the suicide because they would have known about the brain disease and then been able to help him or, watch him.
Yeah, so it would have initially prevented the disease, which then would have stopped the suicide. Is that right?
So getting so many concussions, I don't know if the disease is something that's preventable, but even if he has a disease, a side effect of that disease is suicidal tendencies or suicidal thoughts. So it could have potentially prevented the suicide because had they done what they should have done and known that he had a brain disease, then they could have at least taken the proper procedures to, help medicate a person who was struggling with that kind of brain disease or, watch him more closely if that was something, you know, because someone like that would have suicidal tendencies?
I would say suicides potentially prevented the suicide because it's not going into all that stuff.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I think we're. Yeah, I think I just know a little too much. Okay, so would have prevented the suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Would have potentially prevented the suicide. Done? Or
Nope, not sorry. And then say by let's see. Potentially prevent the suicide.
Because
Yeah, just say because they would have known about the brain disease. And could have properly treated him.
that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
So malpractice. Why is it not malpractice?
Because they were not practicing the team. They were not.
So what malpractice is in essence, malpractice is a failure to adhere to professional standards. It is negligence in a professional context. Therefore, the breach of duty in a malpractice case is the failing to do what a competent, reasonable doctor, attorney, accountant, engineer, whatever the profession would have done in the circumstances.
Yeah, so it says it's especially in the context of securities laws.
Real quick, just hearing that, would our question confuse them then? Because everything we're basing it off of is like medical attention, whereas really all they had to do was bench him.
Yes, I agree. As soon as I read malpractice, I was on that page as well.
But technically, it's not malpractice because they went from suicide to the football team, and it's proximate cause because they're talking about his suicide being proximate to what the team did.
I think it's just how we worded it. It made it sound like they didn't follow correct medical attention. It seemed like they were malpracticing, whereas it's just the fact that they, as a team, chose not to bench him, which then caused multiple concussions and so forth. So how can we reword that to not confuse? Negligence of the team. Maybe not benching Mr. Hernandez. No.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that.
These are so hard.
I know. I get what you're saying though. Yeah, and that
not benching Mr. Hernandez, which led to
brain disease.
And then say and eventual suicide.
Because if you say and eventual suicide, you're making it sound like they're suing suicide.
To a brain disease and suicide. What did you want to say?
Well, are they suing for the brain disease or the suicide? Or both?
All of it, because it led together, right?
It led, yeah. Sorry, I'm back. I disappeared, but I'm back.
They're suing for the suicide because of the brain disease.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Does that sound better to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
What does it say? I can't read it.
So it says, on behalf of Aaron Hernandez's 4-year-old daughter, the NFL and the New England Patriots are being sued. They claim the brain disease that Mr. Hernandez had was caused by the negligence of the team not benching Mr. Hernandez, which led, I need to reword that, but which led to a brain disease and suicide. What form of liability would this be considered?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Claim that the suicide that Mr. Hernandez
There we go.
was caused by the negligence.
Suicide of There we go. There we go. Okay. So it's not malpractice because
So I was looking at this one, and I don't think it's malpractice because there was not a standard for the professionals in that field. So it says it needs to, failure is a measure by the standard of professionals in that field. So it wasn't a standard in the NFL or by teams to check that. I mean, that's the way I would say that it wasn't, because it's comparing to adhere to professional standards is malpractice.
to
So I don't think it was a standard to I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So checking concussions, like multiple concussions, the long-term effects or something like that.
Okay. Sounds good enough. A strict liability.
Strict liability. Strict liability. The defendant is liable for the plaintiff's injuries despite the absence of negligence or intentional wrongful acts. If the defendant was engaged in abnormally dangerous activities, blasting with dynamite, crop dusting, keeping wild animals, especially activities unusual for the local courts and legislatures, having decided he or she should bear the cost of any harm done, as in other areas of liability.
Yeah, so I think on the liability, strict liability, it's because he was doing normal job requirements. There was nothing outside of his job that he was doing that were engaging in abnormal, dangerous activities. Yeah, if we don't want to use his name, we can just say the deceased or something.
Oh yeah. Just dead.
You can say. So basically, I think what strict liability is the absence of negligence. It says the defendant is liable for the plaintiff's injuries despite the absence of negligence or intentional wrongful acts.
Yeah.
Whereas they're saying that it was negligence.
Yeah. So do we want to change that?
I think it's both. I think it's what you
Well,
said.
yeah, so not participating and then just saying the absence of negligence.
In the absence of negligence, is that what you said?
Excuse me.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go. And the last one, that one, responding superior.
Oh, this one sounds a little trickier.
What's the last one?
Respondeat superior. It's on page 459. So tortious acts.
So I guess this is saying that there's just personal liability to the player. Well, so this is basically against employer and employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If the employer is acting in the scope of employment.
Which technically he would be employed
Right.
by the Patriots, not the NFL.
Let's just not do that one. Let's do the res ipsa. Look, that one. The one right. That will be easier.
The one that none of us can say.
Yeah.
I can't say.
A little bit better. I think we can prove ourselves a little better.
Res ipsa.
That one does sound easier. Yes.
Because it sounds like
The defendant would not have had control of the other players that caused the concussions,
Right.
ultimately. So say that nicer, fancier. Had
any control over
Things.
did not have any
control
direct control. Over the instrument causing the injury. So the instrument would be the other
Any other
individuals.
players?
Yeah.
players who
Who he collided with.
Yeah, who may have caused the injury.
Cool. Does that look good for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Really quick, what is everybody's last names?
Mine is Burton.
Oh, I had. Was that Becky who said that?
Brandy.
Brandy, you said that? Oh.
Brandy Burton.
And Becky, is yours Bateman?
And mine is Bateman. Yeah.
Oh, get you two mixed up, the bees.
She's combining us together.
Okay, and Marvin, what's your last name?
Concova.
How do you spell that?
C-O-N-C-O-B-A.
B-A or
Be the boy.
V.
Be the boy.
Oh, B. My bad. Sorry.
Gotcha. And Michelle, your last name is Christensen, yeah?
Yeah, it's actually Williams, but it's Christensen on here.
Oh.
It's good. No, you put Christensen because that's how it is on my BYU Idaho stuff.
Perfect. Okay. Then I'll post our link and post this to our assignment.
And I did record last week, so when he said he didn't have it, I resent it out and it worked the second time. So.
Oh, perfect.
Saw that in the response.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know if I responded to everybody. So.
And so I'm gonna stop. Really quick. So for next week's meeting, do we want to meet at the same time, Thursday at 6:30, or would a better time be better?
6:30 is all right for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm mostly fine with 6:30.
Yeah, I'm okay with 6:30 too.
I think it's like 8:30 or something your time, Marvin.
8:30 here.
And then does anybody want to be in charge next week?
Yeah.
Everybody all at once.
I'll be in charge next week.
Cool. Cool. 6:30 next Thursday, and Matt will do it.
Okay. So our group one is what week are we present in week 6, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So maybe not next week, but the following week, if we just allot more time, and then we can go over whatever that really.
Right. And if we can all just read it ahead of time, that way we get a good idea of what the case is about, and that way we can start thinking about presentations, because that's a really big one. So, and it's worth 50 points.
Yeah.
So we really don't want to wait a lot of time on that one.
Okay. And we can start talking about that one if we want, like through email and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So if we get ideas. Okay. Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see you next week at
All
6.
right.
See ya.
Okay, see you guys.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Bye.